All right, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome back. We have about 5 minutes until class time, so no rush. Just getting here a little early, but hang in there, and we will get things underway in just a little while. Hope you had a good weekend, and hope everything else is going well so far this semester for you. Hey, Nick. Hi, Noah. Good to see you guys. Hope your day's going well. Still got about 4 minutes, and then we will get things underway. Hi, Jennifer, Danny, Margarito. Always good to see all you guys. Hey, Dylan. Good afternoon. Hey, Chelsea. Hi, Brenda. Good to see all you folks. Hey, Cecilia. Hi, Nancy. Hi, John. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Now it's February, so we're getting into 2021. Did January fly by, or did it seem like it took forever? I don't know. Hey, guys. Hi. Hi, Hannah, Nancy, Stacy. Good to see all you. Just a couple more minutes, so get comfortable, get your viewing set up the way you like it, and be ready to go. Hi, Charisse. Hi, Vanessa. Hey there, guys. Okay, a couple minutes until 1 p.m. Just hanging in there for a few moments. Hello, hello. Hello. Hi, Emily, Bob, Amanda, and all the rest. Hey there, Ashley. Hi, Sunny. Hi, Gladys. Good afternoon. Hey, Jay. Hello. Okay, just under a minute, and then we'll be getting going. Hey there. Hi, Diane. Hi, Derek. And hey, Ray. Good to see you too. All right, everybody. It's 1 o'clock, so welcome back to class. Good afternoon, and hope your day's going well so far. As you guys know, this is the second lecture, of topics and material from our course, and so we're going to pretty much build on the things that we were doing last time, add some new material, and kind of continue to develop our initial understanding of what it is to be a good critical thinker, and also a little bit about logic, argument. And today we're actually going to learn about what are two different types of argument. There are two main forms of logical reasoning and argument. That's deduction and induction. So we're going to learn a little bit about those two things today, and also just kind of review the stuff that we covered last time as well. So if you haven't yet, just do go ahead and say hi or just something in the chat so that I can make sure to determine that you are present. So if you have if you have a username that's different from your actual name, you might want to just put the name in your comment, and then if you've not already, I'll make sure that I took note that you were here. Okay, so let's get things back underway. Let me review, first of all, the things that were discussed at the previous meeting, and any of you guys can jump in and help me if I have some questions to just kind of check on your understanding and memory. And thanks, everybody. I see you all checking in, and duly noted, so appreciate that. All right, first of all, what do we remember about the first concept we learned? What is it to be a good critical thinker? It's a type of person, but what type of person? Like, what is the overall characterization that you remember or that you have notes about? When it comes to being a good critical thinker, what does that involve? What goes along with that? Let's see who knows this, and then that'll be kind of where we jump off from. So go back in your memories or your notes or both, and let's see if we can retrieve this. Person who will not believe a claim unless it's based on good evidence. Perfect. That's right, Jay. Good critical thinkers will only accept information presented to them if it can somehow be established because of good evidence, good argument, etc. So they have that high standard. It's not worthy of belief unless it can really be verified, justified by some kind of solid evidence, proof, or argument. And also, Dimitri, you say, someone who's skeptical does not believe immediately what they are told. Right. There is another part of the definition too, not gullible, that's clear. Let me hear about that other part too, because one part is if someone gives you a claim, you don't say automatically, oh, that must be true. You want to hear the reasons and the evidence. If there is such reasons and evidence, then you might believe it. But on the other hand, another part of being a good critical thinker is that who can tell me the second part of definition? Let's just try and brush up against that one more time too. We're all good so far. It's true that, yeah, a good critical thinker wouldn't believe something unless based on good reasons. But also, good Chelsea, when making claims to others, they do provide good reasons or arguments to support their own claims. Correct. So when stating a claim to another individual or audience, a good critical thinker doesn't just leave it at the claim. They give you reasons, evidence, and arguments that make the claim appear justified. So they present good arguments when making claims. When claims are coming to them, they want to hear the good reasons, otherwise they wouldn't believe it. On the other hand, and now we can kind of jump off from there, a bad critical thinker is just the reverse. It's the sort of person who will believe things without good reasons or good evidence. And it's the kind of person who makes claims to people, but can't really back their claims up with good reasons or evidence. So we want to move towards the standard of being good critical thinkers, and this class gives us some ability to do that, and that's our goal. After that, we started to mention another thing. So we've talked about arguments in describing and defining what a good critical or bad critical thinker is. Good critical thinkers are good at making arguments, and they're also good at judging the quality of arguments. But that means that we have to then consider what is an argument in the sort of formal sense of logic. So who knows that? what's an argument in general terms? It's a set of certain things, but who can remember the precise definition? An argument is what kind of thing? How's the definition of an argument go? Let's see who knows. Dylan, it's a set of two or more sentences, yes, where one of the sentences is the conclusion and all the other remaining sentences are the premises of the argument. Exactly, yes. So to have an argument, you have to have a minimum of two statements, one being the conclusion and at least one premise. There can be more than one premise, but there has to be at least one. Now, going further into that discussion, what is the conclusion of the argument? The conclusion of the argument is the statement or the sentence that you are trying to what? If you are making an argument, or if someone presents you with an argument, what's the role of the conclusion in the argument overall? That part of the argument, what is its basic role? Or what is the point of the conclusion? The conclusion is the sentence, the statement that what? Who can finish that thought? Why do we make an argument? We make an argument in order to do what about this conclusion? Let's see. Just hanging there for a minute. Okay, Chelsea, the whole point of making an argument is to try and convince or persuade somebody that the conclusion is true. Yes, exactly. We present an argument to convince some audience that the conclusion of the argument is true. Say that I wanted to convince you that the United States is the best country, then I would have to marshal certain premises to defend that conclusion. I would say maybe that we have the most powerful military, that we have the greatest amount of wealth. Perhaps I would point to some of the great pioneering achievements of American inventors and stuff, and then I would conclude, therefore, America is the greatest country, if I wished to make such an argument. Now, of course, people can make whichever argument they wish, considering their evidence and the claim they want to defend. If someone wants to say America's not the best country, then they could make their argument, and I don't know, they could, defend that with whatever reasons that they are capable of stating. So, arguments, we make them to convince people the conclusion's true. But the premises, now remind me about that. What is the role of the premises in the argument? The conclusion is what you're trying to prove, to show it's true. But the premises, how do they function? What is their role? The premises of the argument are given as what? So let's hear that one. Hi, Blake. But yeah, question though. The premises of an argument, what is the definition of that? What is a premise, in other words? If we know what's the conclusion, I'm sure our memory will kick right in because the premise is closely related to the conclusion. It has a different role though. What is it? Premises of an argument. We're just reviewing for the moment. Well, you say base statement, kind of, but there's, I think, a more clear way of putting it so that we can all be 100% certain about what we are meaning here. What's the relationship of the premises to the conclusion? Premises, what role do they serve towards that conclusion? Let's hear it. Oh, all 47 of you? You can't wait for someone else to speak. It has to be you. So you, what do you think? What's the premise of an argument? Or in other words, reasons. Correct, Diego. Let's not forget, this is very basic and it cannot ever be forgotten. The premises of the argument are the reasons that you give. Reasons for what, though? Let's even be more specific. The reasons that what? Conclusion statement you're trying to prove to be true. Premises, reasons, reasons that support the conclusion, correct. Reasons why you think the conclusion is true. Reasons that give evidence for the conclusion. Okay, good. So like say I had an argument like this. Say my conclusion is just Jones killed Smith. And, I don't know, this is the conclusion, which I'm placing at bottom. That's part of standard form. Suppose that I have this, these two premises. Jones told people that he would kill Smith, so maybe like they've done some investigation and people have come forward and said, he mentioned to me many times that he wanted to kill Mr. Smith. And then another possible reason, Jones' fingerprint is on the murder weapon, or maybe even his blood, but whatever. This is a hypothetical scenario, but just for example. Now, in this case, someone is making a claim that Jones is the killer, and reasons are then provided. Well, why do you think it is that he is the killer? Oh, because he was giving statements that he intended to do it, so it appeared that he had the motive. Also, when you went and did an investigation of the crime scene, we recovered the murder weapon, and it looked like his fingerprint is present on the knife. So if we have these two facts, maybe that's a good reason to believe that he is the killer. Now, quick little question to test your understanding. Let me ask you, is this right here an argument? California is the best state. Is that sentence alone, does that count as an argument, yes or no? Who knows the answer to that question? So I simply said California is the best of the 50 states. Is that an argument? Let's know, is that an argument? It's just yes or no. Okay, Nick, you're saying no. Harry's saying no. Good. Also, Dimitri, and that's the right answer. It's not an argument, and why not though? Let's uncover this reason. Why does that not count as an argument? It may be true. I mean, I love California, and to me, it is probably the best state of all 50 states. But why is it not an argument though, alone by itself? What's missing? There's no evidence backing the statement up. Correct, Nick. So no reasons were given, no premises were stated. So even one sentence, whether it's true, whether it's untrue, it's not going to count as an argument by itself, because an argument at a minimum has to have at least one statement of evidence, in other words, a premise, that backs up the conclusion. Okay, so very good. That's all clear, and I'm glad you guys seem to understand that. One more thing here about the look of an argument on the page. In this case here, this is the conclusion, and it's easy to know that is the conclusion, because the conclusion always goes at the bottom of the argument structure. That's called standard form. So when you write an argument or you see an argument, you'll see it presented in this fashion, with the conclusion below. Oftentimes a horizontal line is a divider between the conclusion below it and the premises above it. Sometimes we number these premises, but at a minimum we have to list them. They cannot appear on the same continuous horizontal line. In this case, the argument contains two premises and that conclusion below. Okay, now still just a little bit more review before we jump on to some new information. Once again, we all said correctly that the point of making the argument is to convince or persuade that the conclusion is true. Now let's remember what the word truth refers to. What does it mean for a sentence to be a true sentence? So in other words, what's the definition of the term truth or true? To be true, what has to go on with a sentence? So let me hear that from some of you guys. Truth, very good, Dylan. When what the sentence says matches the facts of reality. Exactly. So if I told you I was wearing a watch, to just use an easy example, that is true. That's a fact. I mean, there it is. I'm saying it, but I'm not just saying something false. Now, if I told you that I was wearing a diamond watch, diamond, it's not got diamonds on it, so that's just not true. One of the statements mirrors the facts that are actual, and the other sentence does not correspond to the facts. So true statements mirror reality. Saying that it's colder in Alaska than it is in the Mojave Desert is a fact. That's a true statement. But it wouldn't be true if the world were otherwise. So statements can be produced, but their truth value, whether they're true or false, depends on whether they conform to the actual circumstances. If I told you that I was 7 feet tall, that's just not true. It's not my actual height. It's a statement of my height, but it's a false statement of my height. So a true statement would be like 5'9.5", 10, something like that. So one statement matches what's real and the other one doesn't. That's what it is for a statement to be true. Now, big picture, we're critical thinkers, or we're trying to be better critical thinkers, and good critical thinkers don't want to believe things that are false, obviously, because believing a false thing is to think something is real, but it's not, and that's to have like a incorrect appreciation of reality and fact. So we want to live in reality and understand what's really going on there, even if sometimes the facts are not pleasant, and sometimes we have to work hard to get to those facts. But that's what critical thinking at least makes us a little better at, coming to true conclusions based on the right evidence. Okay, belief. We also mentioned that quickly last time. This followed after our discussion of truth. So to believe a statement or sentence is to take what attitude toward it? If you believe a sentence, like, I don't know, what is it? I could give you an example, but say you believe that Professor Vulich lives in California, or you believe that, yeah, so here I'm getting some responses. When a person thinks that this sentence is true. Well, Henok, it's a little bit minimalist the way you put it there, but in a sense, but it has to do with what you think. So when you think a sentence is true, then you believe that sentence. Say there's a little child and the child believes in the Easter Bunny. Then if you told him the Easter Bunny is going to bring you some like colorful eggs on Easter, he would say that's real, that's true, they think it's true. So beliefs are your kind of choices or thoughts about what you think is true. And our beliefs, of course, can be different. Some people believe that the moon landing was fake. I mean, hopefully not many people and none of you, but there's some people out there that think things, that they just have funny beliefs. So some people believe things, others don't, but there's just one set of objective facts. Okay, so we want to be the kind of people who only grant credibility and belief to the things that really are true. And the best way that we get to those truths is through the insisting on evidence, facts, and reasons before we assign the belief to a proposition. Okay, now I think from there, there's just a couple more things I wanted to review, and I'll go over these quickly. There are different types of sentences. One of the types of sentences mentioned in the last meeting, which is very important, are assertoric sentences. Now, about that, an assertoric sentence, in other words, is just a sentence that is either true or false. So, like if I say dinosaurs roamed the earth in the prehistoric era, that's a sentence. It's a assertoric sentence because it's something that either is or is not true. Sometimes we don't know the truth value of the sentence when we make it. Like if I say there's an even number of grains of sand on the planet right now. That could be true. It's 50% probable, but I don't know if it's true or not. So sometimes we know the truth value of a sentence, other times we don't. But whenever it has some truth value, whether known or unknown, it's an assertoric sentence. And those are very important because those are the only sentences that we include as premises and conclusions of arguments. But there are a couple of other types of sentences as well. Let me at least refer to the two others that I spent some time on last week. What about an interrogative? Maybe someone can tell me what an interrogative is by giving an example. Who can write down an interrogative in our chat? And then by means of your example, we'll know what kind of sentence that is. So let's see one or two or however many. If you can recall the concept of an interrogative sentence, then just write one down. Where is the bathroom? Good. Yes. What is an interrogative? Ah, very meta, very clever. What are you wearing? What time is class? What day is it? Correct. So that means we all are clear and we understand. An interrogative is just a question. It's any sentence that ends with a question mark. And so these are all fair examples. Very good. What is an imperative? Let me know about that. One more category of sentence. The imperative sentences, they're not questions. They're not assertions, but they are instead what? Or if you have examples, let's know what could be an imperative. They are commands, exactly. Run, get down, put that away, open the door, wait. These are all commands. I want to go home. Well, Danny, that in fact, although stated in a sort of imperative mood, is in fact an assertion, because if you want to go home, then that's a true sentence. If the person doesn't really want to go home and they're just saying that to appear like they long for their home, then that would be a false sentence. But if you said, take me home, that would be a command, right? So subtle difference, but hopefully that's coming through clear enough. Okay, now I believe that what we finished with last meeting was the discussion of conclusion indicator words, words which indicate either in speech or writing that the following statement is the conclusion of the argument. So, so conclusion indicator words, anybody? What are some of those? For example, we've got the word like, you'll tell me. Some of those include what? You know, so all men were born on Earth. Elon Musk is a man. Therefore, he was born on Earth. Very good. Vanessa, slight correction, okay? Henceforth, no, but hence, yes. Henceforth has a different meaning. Henceforth means after this. So like, I graduated college and henceforth I never opened a book again. So like that means afterward, but hence means therefore. So hence is the one you're thinking of. Good. Thus, consequently, even the word so, very good example. Yeah, no problem, Vanessa. There's also ergo. So those are all good. Now, I don't think we talked about premise indicator words. Now we're going to pick up with that. That's something new. So there are also words which indicate not that it is the conclusion that is now going to be stated, but rather one of the reasons, or in other words, premises of the argument. So let's see if we can all come together and figure out what are some of these premise indicator words. So suppose like what you might say before saying either statement number 1 or 2 in like verbalizing this argument. You know, blank Jones told people he would kill Smith, and blank Jones' fingerprint is on the murder weapon, therefore Jones killed Smith. So what are some words which indicate the sense that this is a piece of evidence towards some conclusion? I'm thinking you'll be able to derive these from your own intuition and from your own vocabulary, but if you need help, I will definitely come in and assist. But let's see if anyone has even a stab at it, what you think could be one of these so-called premise indicator words. Okay, very good, Brenda and Yvonne. Exactly, that's the right kind of thing. Since is a good example. So for example here, since Jones told people he would kill Smith, and since Jones' fingerprint is on the murder weapon, therefore Jones killed Smith. Okay, Dimitri, it's not to begin, because to begin merely states the chronological order of the information being presented, rather than the logical relationship of a piece of information to a conclusion. So it doesn't just mean we're beginning now. It means this is something that proves something else. So good. There's another one, Yvonne, given that. So let me write them down as I see you giving me good examples. Since, given that, and like anything else that's kind of in the same genre of given that, due to the fact that, I see Ray, very good. I was looking for that one, and that's one of the perhaps most well-known and popular of these, because, the word because. Because Jones told people he would kill Smith, and because Jones' fingerprint is on the murder weapon, therefore, you know, Jones killed Smith. As shown by, that would also be good, yes. Not the word so, though, Diego, because let's remember, so is the conclusion indicator word. You wouldn't say so in stating these reasons here. As, that would be fine, even though it's a little bit formal. You know, as Jones told people he would kill Smith, and as his fingerprint is on the murder weapon, yeah, that would be okay. Assuming that is also fair. Seeing as, correct. In as much as, insofar as, these are all examples of premise indicator words. For the reason that, granted that, okay, very good examples all around. I just put some of the big, I guess, greatest hits right here, but the others that I've called out in the chat here, they're all good examples. Okay, so anyway, now we just have a sense of how people speak and write when we produce and evaluate arguments. Now, we're going to really even get deeper into the knowledge of what arguments are and how they work by starting to learn about the two main different types of argument and reasoning. So I'm going to clear the board, and we're going to just now start talking about deduction and induction. All right. Okay, so two types of argument / reasoning. We sometimes say we reason in these ways, or that we present arguments of these types. So some arguments are deduction or deductive arguments. And on the other hand, the other main type is what are called inductive arguments. So when we are using deductive arguments, we're engaged in deductive reasoning and doing deduction. When we do inductive arguments, when we state inductive arguments, we're reasoning inductively and we're doing induction. So we now have to really kind of zero in and focus on what are deductive versus inductive arguments. I'm going to start with the deductive kind, okay? So a good deductive argument is what we call a deductively valid argument. Okay, so to understand what deduction is all about, we have to comprehend validity, deductive validity. And so this is a key definition, very, very fundamental and basic definition for our class. Deductively valid argument. Okay, what is that? A deductively valid argument is the following. It is an argument where if the premises are all true, then the conclusion of the argument must necessarily be true also. Okay, so then in that case, the conclusion must also be true. Okay, so deductively valid argument, and there's the definition right there. So yeah, it's an argument where if the premises are all true, then the conclusion has to be also. It's an argument where it's not possible for all the premises to be true, but somehow the conclusion turns out false. So let me provide some examples of arguments that have this feature. I'm going to need the board, and so since I just wrote it, I'm going to add this definition to the chat, and then that'll allow me to clear the board. So. So there you see the definition in the chat. And when you clear the board, it just gives some examples now. So here's one example. All dogs are mammals. Mammals, warm-blooded, give live birth, except for the odd case of the platypus. But anyway, mammals. All dogs are mammals. Second premise. Terriers are dogs. So if we just jump to the conclusion here, who can tell me what conclusion follows? What can you deduce, in other words, from these two premises? What follows logically? There's a deductively valid conclusion that follows from these. Therefore, terriers are, well, no, Jay, not correct. Danny, you have it, though. Terriers are mammals. This says terriers are dogs, Jay. So, I mean, That's already in the second premise. But yeah, terriers are mammals. Okay, now, looking at that, this conclusion that terriers are mammals is a statement that's based on these two premises. But think about it. If these two statements are true, if these are true facts, every single dog is a mammal. Also, terriers are dogs. If these two things are facts, then this has to be a fact. There's no possible way for these things to be true. Not to worry, Jay, I got you, no problem. But there's no way for these things to be true and for this to somehow be false. That would be logically impossible. And we can even showcase that by means of Venn diagrams if we wanted to. So like here, say that this circle is just a set of things and it's all of the dogs. So I label it with the letter D to stand for this being the set of dogs, okay? Now, how can I draw another circle to reflect the first premise that all dogs are mammals? Let me see if anybody can kind of think of that logically. If this circle is D, standing for all dogs, then in order to visualize that all dogs are mammals, how can I continue to draw on the board right now? Let's see if anyone can instruct me on the next figure to draw. And again, it's going to show us, by means of the visual, that everything that is a dog is a mammal. So what do you think? Venn diagrams. Sometimes they overlap, sometimes they're disjoint, sometimes one circle contains another. So a bigger circle around this circle. Okay, very good. Now this bigger circle, what should I label it with in terms of letters? That's very good, Brenda. But now I just want to know about the label to attach to the bigger circle so that we're clear about what it means. That bigger circle should be labeled with what type of information? Okay. Well, yeah, Brenda, but very good. I just want to be precise about one thing. What does this bigger circle stand for? M. Very good. M for the set of mammals. So like this shows us that every dog is a mammal because every single thing that's in this set is contained in this larger set of things. Now, there's some mammals that are not dogs. Yeah, like me and you and like the great apes and all kinds of other mammals would be in this section here that's not interior to the set of dogs, but still within the set of mammals. So here, this shows us that all dogs are mammals. Now, if there were some dogs that were not mammals, then this circle would partially extend to the outside region of this one. But anyway, M and D. Now, further, to get the second premise clarified on this chart, where should I draw a circle that designates all the terriers? Okay, I need to include the terriers on the diagram now. Where should they go if they're all dogs? That's something that you can tell me now. Terriers are dogs. That's what the second premise says. So correct, it should be inside of, interior to this D circle. So let me just put one here. It says terriers. So like every single terrier is a dog, you understand? So like that's why it's subsumed, contained within a subset of this circle here. So now look at the conclusion. It says terriers are mammals. And is that something that has to be true based on the first two premises? Yes, it has to be true. Because in order for us to showcase that terriers are all dogs, we have to place it inside of this circle. In order to show that all dogs are mammals, dogs is subsumed within the wider circle of M. But of course, that leaves us no way of placing T outside of the entire set M. So in this case, by means of the diagram, you see something that I hope would just be obvious even without the diagram. That if every single member of the category dog fits the category mammal, then anything that's a member of the category dog will by extension fall in that class. Okay, so that's deductive validity. Let me just continue to add further examples. Okay. How about just a random different topic? No woman has been president of the United States. Who can name like a well-known woman in this world? Anybody at all that we're all familiar with. So it's not just like your cousin or something that the other students wouldn't know. But just throw out a name of a prominent woman. Kamala Harris? Okay. That's perhaps not the, it works, it's fine, because she's not the president, but she's very close to the office. So maybe go with a random example. Oprah, Beyonce, whatever. I'll just say Beyonce is a woman. That's obviously true. So in this example, what's the conclusion to deduce? I could have used all your examples. They're all great examples. Lady Gaga, Megan Thee Stallion, whatever. But I just chose Beyonce because I saw it one of the first examples. What's the conclusion, though? No woman's been president. Beyonce's a woman. Therefore, Beyonce has never been president. Okay, good. Now, I hope someday we have a woman president, and maybe Kamala will get her chance down the line. But at any rate, this conclusion does deductively follow from the premises above. And again, if we wanted, we could show a Venn diagram that would make that explicit. Say that this circle P stands for all the presidents. So George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Donald Trump, Obama, they're all in that set. Over here is a set of all women who've ever lived. They're disjoint because no woman has ever been a member of that category. Now, Beyonce is a woman, so she would be one of the members of this category here. But clearly, this places her disjoint from the circle designating the set of all presidents because it's inside of the W circle, which is itself separated from P. So, I mean, these are just examples of some deductively valid arguments. Sometimes words like all, none, or some are used in formulating these deductively valid arguments. Like as in this case, I used no woman has been president. In the previous case, all dogs are mammals. It's simple to trace through a logical consequence from an all statement or a no statement. And these are just a couple of random cases of doing that. Now, next up, I need to talk to you guys about another concept within the realm of deductive validity. I was going to ask, is there anybody who wants to try and construct an example of a deductively valid argument? Let's see if anybody can do that. And then if you can give me a quick example, I can maybe discuss it and we can all talk about it a little. And then I'm moving on to a new definition. Let's see. So in your chat, right, you won't be able to perhaps easily do it in standard form because it's hard to separate from one line to the next, but you can number the premises and then I guess designate the conclusion with the letter C. So what do you think is a deductively valid argument? There's infinitely many. You can construct these just out of random, out of thin air. So see if you can do that. I'll just give you a moment. I know it can take a second here, but let's see if anyone can throw out a random example of a valid argument, deductively valid. Like, I mean, I could continue going on. Anybody who was born in the United States is a U.S. citizen. Dr. Vulich was born in the United States, so Dr. Vulich is a U.S. citizen. That's, again, a valid argument because it does follow from our Constitution that you have birthright citizenship if you're born here. So that's the rule. The premise one states. Second premise just indicates that I'm someone that was born in this territory, so the conclusion follows. But, you know, I'm giving you examples. Let's see if you could try and state one. Okay, so J. Cars are used for transportation. Cars are fast. I don't know, though. Are you really going to be able to state a conclusion based on those things? So Margarito, let's see if you come up with it, but so far I don't see it. Professor Vulich teaches at CSUF. CSUF is a college. Okay, so I'm following your logic so far. But you're got to get to the conclusion, right? Oh, okay. So therefore, Professor Vulich teaches at a college. Yeah, that's good. I do teach at CSUF. It is in fact a college, and if it's a college and that's where I teach, then putting 1 + 1 together, we get this result that I teach at a college. Good. It's not possible for the two statements given as premises to be true and yet false that I teach at a college. Because again, if I teach at CSUF and it's a college, then that just means that I teach at a college. There's no other way to interpret those statements towards the conclusion. Okay, I'm older than you, and you're older than, I don't know, who's like a child out there that's well known to everybody? I'm like out of touch with like child actors in current day, stuff like that. But maybe one of the kids from Stranger Days or something. Are they like elementary school age? Anyway, say that I gave the example that, here, I'll look at your case, Diego. People who invest in Dogcoin are rich. Billy invested in Dogcoin, therefore Billy is rich. Good example, yeah. So, I mean, the first one makes an all statement. All people investing in this coin are rich, I think is what you imply. Billy, just an assumed name of a hypothetical character, invested in Dogcoin, and therefore he's rich. The Stranger Days thing, I don't remember the name of any of the actors, but if I said, for example, I'm older than you, the student, you're older than fill in the blank, the actor from Stranger Days, then in that case, I'm older than the actor from Stranger Days, right? Because I'm older than you and you're older than that person. Examples on examples, and we could just spin our wheels doing this forever, but wanted to make it clear. Don't forget this definition of deductive validity. It carries through the whole class. It's a very base concept that we kind of want to make sure we don't lose sight of. But to continue now, Kenya, what's wrong? Well, maybe you could let me know. You sound like you're breathing out, like, oof, like that was a tough mental gymnastics, but it's not so bad. We're just dealing with arguments, which you already know about, but you've not really learned the terminology. Okay, so next up. Oh, Stranger Things, okay. Yeah, well, Stranger Things, my bad. Stranger Days, whatever. It's been a little while. It's still early for me, but I have watched the series, so oops. Back to this, though. Another concept in deduction land is soundness. Okay, so soundness is a little bit different from validity. Here's what that means. So it's basically just a deductively valid argument. Yeah, they're probably older than you guys, but look, poorly chosen example. Take one of the kids from like a child's show. I don't know. You understand the idea. If A is older than B and B is older than C, then A is older than C for any A, B, and C that we can plug in. Soundness, all right? Soundness is just this. It's a deductively valid argument which has all true premises. Okay, so soundness means that the argument's valid, first of all, so it's got the logical form of validity. But on top of that, the extra thing is that the premises are really true in the actual world. Now, for you to really clearly comprehend this definition, I need to mention to you that there can be valid arguments that are not sound. So there can be valid arguments that are sound versus valid arguments that are unsound. And let's just try and understand the difference between the two cases. All right, so okay, so how about all people, or just to be very precise, all human beings have been to the moon. Second premise, Tom Hanks is a human being. So what is the conclusion to be deduced from these two premises here? All human beings have been to the moon. And Tom Hanks is one of the human beings. So therefore, what's to be concluded? Little weird argument, I know that, but that's on purpose because I'm making a point with this. The conclusion is that Tom Hanks has been to the moon. Very good, yes. Okay, now examine this argument. First of all, is it valid? It is valid. It's valid, and why? Because thinking in hypothetical terms, suppose if these premises were true, right? If they were, then this would have to be true as well, because just as a matter of logic, this information results from these two pieces of information. Okay, so it's valid. And we could show that again by means of a Venn diagram. Like, all human beings have been to the moon. Okay, well, here's the human beings. Here's those things that have been to the moon. All humans been to the moon. Tom Hanks is one of the human beings. So therefore, he's been to the moon. It follows. It logically follows. But now I have a new question. And it's okay to think about it for a moment before you give the answer if you need to. But simply stated, do you think this argument is sound? Is this current argument sound or is it unsound? That's the question on the table. Is this a sound argument or no? Working with the definitions and what you currently understand. It is not sound. Very good. Correct, guys. Tell me why. What's wrong with the argument making it not sound? Because it is valid, okay, but it's not sound. And why not, though? It is unsound, correct. Let's give that a reason, if you can. It would be crazy, correct, Dylan, but all else aside, well, no, Margarito, no, that is not the reason for an argument to be unsound. So, incorrect. Someone tell me, though, what is the reason that it is not sound? Jay, not all human beings have been to the moon. Okay, very good. In other words, as Brenda has said, the premises are not all true, okay? The second premise is true, but which premise is false again? It's the first one. The first premise is false because it says all human beings have been to the moon, and that's simply not true. Very few human beings have ever been to the moon, and nobody in the last 50 years or so has been to the moon. So nonetheless, if it were true, and if this was additionally true, then this conclusion has to follow from them. It's almost like just this is a mathematical consequence of these two statements above. But notice that these are not all facts. The first premise is not a fact. Okay, so this is an example of an argument which is valid, but it's not sound. Now, let's compare that with one of our previous examples. So like, how about this? Fullerton is in California. California is in the United States. So what conclusion follows from those statements? Fullerton's a part of California, and that's the correct statement. California is in the United States. Just what's the deduction to make here? Not too bad, I hope. Fullerton's in California. California's in the US. And so looking at those two pieces of information, one thing you can say for sure is that Fullerton is in the United States. Yeah. Now this argument, I hope we can see, is valid. It's valid because in case Fullerton's in California, suppose that's true. Not hard to assume because it is true, but that gives us this kind of situation. Fullerton is a subset of California. California is itself a small piece of the larger United States. And so clearly, we're inside of this region. That's inside of this larger region. So this is certainly inside of the even larger region that California is a part of. So it's a valid argument. Question, is this argument sound or is it not sound? Sound or not sound? Let me just know. It is sound, correct. Yes, this one is sound. Now, why is it that this one's sound and not the other one? Well, both of them were valid because even in the previous example where I said everyone's been to the moon, so Tom Hanks is a person and he's been to the moon, that's valid. but it's not sound because of the incorrect information of the first premise. In this case, however, it's valid, but it's also sound because both of those premises are true, like true in the actual world. Fullerton is in California in reality, and California is in the United States in reality. So not only does this conclusion follow from the premises, but these two things are factually true. So just understand, it's ideal, I guess, if your argument is sound, because that means that it checks off both boxes. It's valid and all the information in it is true. But sometimes we don't know what the facts are, and so sometimes the best we can do is to just state an argument which is valid and then leave it to people to debate and discuss whether the premises are true or not, right? So like I could say carbon-based life forms exist on the planet Earth. There's carbon all throughout the universe. Wherever there's carbon in certain density, life would form. So there's life in the universe outside of the planet Earth. I'm making an argument which seems to be valid, but maybe some of my premises are not true. Like maybe the distribution of carbon is not as dense in some parts of the universe as it is in others. So it's like if you accept my premises, if you grant me my premises, my conclusion follows from them, but maybe the argument is unsound because of some of the assumptions made in the premises. You know, like what if somebody said all women love to cook and Kamala Harris is a woman, so she loves to cook. It looks like a valid argument, but of course, it's a pretty controversial first premise, and that's something that can easily be disputed as false. But you can see how the person draws their conclusion based on the assumptions that they do have. So validity just means that the conclusion somehow follows from these premises, whether they're true or false. Soundness, though, is when not only does the conclusion follow from the premises, but on top of that, extra is that the premises are facts. Sometimes we can judge whether the argument is sound, but at a minimum, we should be able to determine whether it's valid or not. Okay, so I'm just going to give you like one or two more examples of this, and then we're going to move over to the other side of this discussion today, which is what is an inductive argument. That's the other type of logical reasoning and argument pattern. So we're working with deduction for now, but we're still going to talk about induction. Or actually, how about this? Let's get a little of your contribution. Let us try together, if we can, to construct a valid but unsound argument, okay? So like we want it to be so that the conclusion results from the premises. But the premises, we just have to make sure they're not all true. One easy way to generate a valid but unsound argument format is to just begin the argument with a false all statement or a false no statement, and then simply continue the argument from there, driving towards a valid conclusion. So can anybody maybe make an attempt? If that'd be awesome if we could just see an attempted valid argument, but it's not sound. So I'll just give you a moment, but type into the chat what you think you can come up with on this. Valid, but without all true premises. Let's see. Okay, all humans wear glasses, Brenda. Good. And I see Margarito's example, and I'll get back to that, but let me see if Brenda wants to finish with that example. All teachers are 20 feet tall. My math teacher is, okay, a little bit off, Dylan, but close. I'll correct it in a minute. Danny, all humans love roller coasters. Danny's a human. Danny loves roller coasters. That's a good example, yes, because we know many people, some people at least, don't love roller coasters. So the first premise is false, but if we grant that, then the conclusion follows from the premises. Yeah, now, Dylan, what you said is all teachers are 20 feet tall. Your second premise should have said so-and-so is a math teacher. And then you would have concluded so-and-so is 20 feet tall. But it's not valid as stated because the second premise says my math teacher is 20 feet tall. Now, the first premise says all teachers are 20 feet tall, but it doesn't say all 20 feet tall people are teachers. So you could have a 20-foot tall non-teacher. That's left open by the first premise because it does not say only teachers are 20 feet tall. It merely says that all of them are. I hope that makes sense to you. And now you got it correct. I see the corrected version down below. No problem. Brenda, looking at your full argument, all humans wear glasses. Obama is a human, and therefore Obama wears glasses. Good. Not all humans wear glasses. Many have perfect vision. Honestly, I don't necessarily need to wear my own glasses, but my left eye is not as good as my right, which has got good vision, perfect vision, so I wear them to help. These are all good examples. In every case you guys are giving, there's at least one statement that's false. And it's easy to see which one it is in all cases, most of them, because like you say all of some kind has a certain feature which is false. Like all teachers are 20 feet tall, all people wear glasses, all adults drive cars. That's another good example. Dr. Village is an adult, so he drives a car. Let me see Margarito's example. Pens or pencils? Okay, we know that's not true. Pencils are made out of wood. Yes. So pens are made out of wood. Very interesting. Yeah, that's valid but not sound. And the reason that it is not sound is because the first premise says that pens are pencils, which is a confusing statement, but it's certainly not true. Nonetheless, if true, and if the second statement was also granted, then the conclusion would follow. Okay, guys, good. Now remember, the best case is when your argument is valid and it is sound. So, you want to try and make arguments where the logic flows from the premises to the conclusion, but also where the premises are really true. Okay, now, let's talk about induction next. So the other main type of argument and reasoning is induction. But when we do inductive arguments and when we reason inductively, the terminology is not that this argument is deductively valid. Instead, the term is that it is inductively strong. Okay, so now I want to tell you guys and help you understand what does it mean for an argument to be inductively strong. Okay. So an inductively strong argument is this. It means that if all the premises are true, then the conclusion is not guaranteed, but it's probably true. It's highly likely. Okay, so that's the definition. Right. If all the premises are true, then in that case, the conclusion is highly likely to be true. Okay, so if all the premises are true, then in that case, conclusion highly likely to be true. So the real difference between inductive strength and deductive validity is that with deductive validity, if those premises are true, the conclusion has to be. It's not just probably. It's not with a high degree of certainty. No, with deductive validity, that conclusion 100% necessarily has to be true if the premises are. So like if I say that, I'm born in the 80s, you're born in the 2000s, therefore I'm older than you, that conclusion can't be false if the two premises are true. See, there's no way for one man to be born in the 80s, another person to come out 20 years later, but I'm not older than you. That's impossible due to the way that numbers and the greater than relation works. So in all those cases, the conclusion must be true if the premises are. With inductive, though, the premises don't establish that the conclusion has to be true. They just show that it's probably going to be true, that it's very likely, likelier than not. And so the difference between deduction and induction is with deduction, the conclusion is necessary. In induction, the conclusion is probable. Okay, so like, let me give you some examples then of this type of argument. Here's one that is often used in like textbook examples when you first learn induction. And I'll give you more than this, but we'll start with something very basic. So just this one premise, the sun has come up every morning for, it's been a long time. It's not just a week, month, year, 100 years. We're talking billions of years, okay? So the sun has come up every morning for billions of years. Now, what do you think would be a reasonable conclusion that you could draw from that? If that's true, and the sun has come up for every morning for billions of years, therefore, a person might conclude something that's probable, that's very, very likely. Based on that information, what do you think that conclusion would be? It's always come up every morning so far for billions of years. So, therefore, hence, thus, it follows that. It will come up tomorrow morning. Good, Margarita. The sun will come up tomorrow. Now, do you think the sun will come up tomorrow? Sure you do. I would be depressing, right, if you thought it's going to stop tonight and this is the last time. But why is it that you have such a very certain expectation that that's going to happen? Because of the pattern that we all know has existed for so long. There's never been one case where the sun didn't come up in the morning, and that's going back billions of years. So it seems pretty likely, right, that it's going to happen at least once more. Now, at the same time, though, can we guarantee that the sun will come up tomorrow? No, I mean, that's tomorrow, and it's not tomorrow yet. So maybe tonight will be the night where a big asteroid collides with the sun, blows it up, or maybe the sun itself will exhaust its fuel and start to explode out as a supernova, and there won't be a sun to rotate around, or, you know, even weirder things possibly. I don't know, the Earth breaks loose from its gravitational tether to the sun's orbit, orbiting the sun. Look, these things are not likely to happen because there's never been one case of the pattern deviating over that long span. But we can't say that it's an absolute 100% guarantee. It's maybe 99.99999, but it's not something that you can say you know for absolute certainty. So this is an inductively strong argument. It's very strong because the conclusion is quite likely based on the premise. But, you know, we can continue from there and provide additional examples. So think about every day for the past 10 years, maybe this is my driving history, there's someone's driving history. Every day for the past 10 years, there has been traffic on the 405 at 12 noon. Okay. I'm about to take the 405 at 12. So, simple enough, guys. Every day for the past 10 years, there's been traffic on the 405 at 12, and I'm about to take that 405 at 12. So therefore, what would be the conclusion, maybe? Easy enough, I think, but let me hear you put it out there. Conclusion of this inductive argument. There's going to be traffic. Now that's a fine piece of reasoning. If the person expects there to be traffic, they have to have some reason to believe that, and they're drawing on their prior experience and their knowledge of the pattern that they've seen. So inductive arguments are a lot like that. Oftentimes the premises of an inductive argument cite a pattern that has existed for some amount of time, and then the conclusion of the argument is merely that this pattern will continue to exist in the next example or the next instance. Like, for example, I've never broken a bone, me, and I'm in my 30s now, so I've never broken a bone, and therefore I won't break a bone today. If I say that, it's probable, because given my long track record, it would be pretty unusual for me to all of a sudden take on an injury like that after not having ever had one. But we all know that I can't guarantee just by logic that I won't break a bone today. So that's another piece of inductive reasoning. Yvonne, should using might, probably, or maybe be included in the conclusion? Good question, and I'll tell you straight up, no, you shouldn't, because with an inductive argument, that's already assumed that you state it in the categorical sense that it will happen. But since it's an inductive argument, we know to interpret it as probably it will happen, you know? So it would be, I think, redundant to write probable or might be or could be, because that's already a part of the concept. Yes, but good question. How about this? This is funny, because before last year, when we had the election, I was using this in this class for a different group, and I said, okay, well, the United States, we've had a peaceful transition of power every 4 years, or, well, at the change of every administration, going back to the 1700s, you know, because I guess what, the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776, here we are, it's 2020. So in over 200 years of American history, we had never had a transition of power that was not peaceful. So you could say that's 200 plus years. So if we've always had a peaceful transition of power, we will therefore have another peaceful transition of power this time. And of course, you know, people try to storm the Capitol and hopefully they're all going to jail. But the point I'm making is that sometimes the inductive pattern can break, even if it's a very long track record going into the past. Before Obama was elected, you could have said truthfully, every American president has been a white male, and that's 230 years of United States history, so the next president will be a white male as well. But then, of course, Obama is black, so it breaks that pattern. So I'm just mentioning to you that we have to rely on induction, right? We have to get a sense of what to expect based on what we've seen happen before or what we've experienced before. But induction rather than deduction leaves open at least some possible room for the conclusion to turn out differently than what the pattern you know, kind of anticipates. So we've always had a male president. That's still true today. Therefore, the next president will be male. I mean, I guess that's something that you could reason with inductively, but we know there are some viable women candidates and that very well Hillary might have had a chance to win in 2016. So, so I'm just kind of pointing out that with induction, you have a good reason to assume the conclusion is true, and it depends on how extensive the track record is going back. But in every single case of an inductive argument, the conclusion is not guaranteed. It's just likely. Okay? Now, strength is also a matter of degree. There can be more or less strength to your inductive argument, and that can depend on how long the track record is. So, you know, if there's like a 6-year-old and we say this child has never had a cold, so, you know, they won't get a cold this winter. I guess that's something you can rely on because they're 6 years old. But if I'm like 40 years old and I say I've got perfect health, I'm so robust, I've never even had a cold, that's 40 years of experience. So it maybe makes the conclusion stronger and more probable than in the case where there's less of a background track record. You understand? So we don't just say it's like a black or white on and off switch with inductive strength. It's a matter of degree depending on the range of evidence that's provided for in the premises. I can think of lots of examples that follow the same kind of format. Take the student that had perfect attendance, K through 12. You know, sometimes you hear about those stories. They were never absent. So this is the last week of classes in their senior year. Monday, they'll be there at school. And so you're saying this why? Because of their, you know, perfect history and track record of attendance. But again, anything can happen, so you don't know if they'll really be able to make it that next time. But it's likely, isn't it, based on that pattern? Me, I have not missed a class due to illness in like 6 years. I'm pretty consistent, and I really try my best to always be there. So that means that you can maybe reach the conclusion that Dr. Vulich will not miss class this week. But who knows? Tomorrow I could get in a terrible accident or some kind of emergency that would make it impossible to be there. Nonetheless, if you had to bet, you'd probably bet that it would happen because of my reliability going back. Can anybody maybe try to create an inductively strong argument? And then I can see that this is kind of sinking in from your end. Not too bad, you know, just present some premises that lead us to really think a conclusion is probable, but it's not guaranteed. And while you're trying to give your examples, I'll just keep throwing random other ones out there at you. Let's see. Okay, you get in your car. You turn the key. Or if you have an even newer car, maybe push the button. But whatever, you start the ignition. And what do you think will happen? That the car will turn on. Probably you believe that because you've never ever tried to start the car and it did not start. But maybe today will be the first time that it stops working. So you could give examples like that. Nick, the waves have been big for the past week. Okay, good. So for like surfing and stuff. So I'm thinking your conclusion is going to have something about the waves and their size in the next case, but you can tell me. What do you think? They've been big for the past week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We're right there, but I think just gotta wrap that one up for me. Because remember, an argument can't just be one statement. There has to be a combination of at least one premise and conclusion. So we're on the right track, though. Okay. No, I mean, I think you have a good enough starting off premise. If the waves have been big for the past week, I was just thinking you would take it in this direction. They've been big the past week, so they will be big tomorrow in the morning. But, you know, when you gave just 1 week as the time period, you could have, I guess, made it seem even stronger by saying, oh, like the waves have been big for the entire past 2 months. Maybe there's just like a high season of waves. So tomorrow there will be big waves again. But that's a fair example. But hey, everybody, don't let Nick do it all. Let's see some other examples coming from at least another student or so in the class. What do you think? Inductively strong. So, you know, think of something that you believe is probably going to happen, and then just give me the reasons why you think so based on the past. What do you think? Inductive strength. Just a piece of inductive reasoning. I mean, like we talked about the sun coming up every morning. How about you just waking up every morning? How old are you? You're like, what, 18, 19, 20? So you could say, I've woken up every morning for 19 years, so I'll wake up tomorrow. But maybe you could die in your sleep. I hope that doesn't happen. Okay, Ashley. Bob has never had a sports injury, and this season he will not have an injury. Okay, good, Ashley. And all I would add, if you wanted to maybe make it even a little more powerful as an inductively strong argument, you could have added information about how long has this man played sports without taking on an injury, right? Because if he's like in Little League and he's just starting, maybe that doesn't give us enough reason to think he won't take the injury this time. But if he's, you know, like a Iron Man type, you know, like Brett Favre used to be, and he just never missed a game for 20 years, then you might say, well, that's about missing a game. But yeah, Brett Favre did take on injuries, actually. Anyway, but you understand my point. Good example. Margarito, it's been snowing in the mountains every year for the past 200 years. So it will snow next year as well. Very good, yes. Weather in a part of the world where we've come to expect weather patterns, it's likely to repeat, even though climate is changing slowly over time. Danny, in our neighborhood park, there are always ducks there for the past 3 weeks, so the ducks will be there next week. Good. Good examples all around, guys. Blake, I've gone to the doctors every year, so I'll go again this year. And you could say every year for, you know, blah, 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 10 years or something, however long it has been. Now, let me mention this. I'll get your example too, Brenda. Once a month for the past billions of years, the full moon is visible. Therefore, next month there will be another full moon visible. Very good. Yes, the lunar phases show the full moon at approximately every 4 weeks on a cycle, and that has reliably been repeating like clockwork for so long into the recorded history, and prehistory, so we think it will continue. Micah, I've been sleeping at 4 for the past 2 months. 4 a.m. Yikes, but you know, there's a lot of fun stuff to do in the night. I will sleep again at 4 a.m. tonight. Fair enough. Good example. Now, I was just going to close with this. Sometimes inductive arguments can be weak, and there can also be deductive arguments that are invalid. So I'll mention more about this next time, but just as we close here, say that somebody told you, yesterday when I was on a walk, I found a $20 bill on the ground. So I'll find a $20 bill on the ground tomorrow when I take the same walk. That's not inductively strong because the pattern it's drawing from is just a one-off random occasion that's not likely to repeat. If you guys have ever found money on the ground, you know that that's not something that happens with any regularity. So just citing one case or something that's not likely to recur would be a poor inductive argument. If I say to you, I wore my favorite red socks last Wednesday and my professor canceled class. So if I wear the red socks next Wednesday, he'll cancel class again. This is just a random coincidence. On the other hand, if every time you wore those socks, reliably someone called in sick over like a 10-year span, then you might start thinking something's mysterious about these socks, and that could be the fodder for an inductively strong argument. But I'm just mentioning to you that not every inductive argument is of equal strength. There could be some which provide evidence that doesn't even really make the conclusion very likely. But in the best case scenario, we're going to deal with the best high quality inductively strong arguments and deductively valid and sound arguments. So for today's meeting, what we did was review the previous lecture. Then we talked about premise indicator words. We then just spoke about the two main types of arguments, and we got some good examples of deductive validity, deductively sound arguments, and inductively strong arguments. So for the next class period, I want you guys to make sure to just read the pages set in the syllabus. There's just a couple of them, and they'll reinforce some of the stuff I've talked to you about today and last Wednesday. I'll also assign for you guys your first homework on Wednesday, and you'll have about a week to work on it. It's going to have to do with the types of deductive arguments that we're going to learn next time. So I'm saving the distribution of the prompt until next class period, but it'll be very clear. In the next class, we're going to learn about a couple of different types of deductively valid argument forms, and we'll just keep working from there. So for the time being, everybody, I guess I'll let you guys go. Thanks so much for being here and contributing, making it interesting again. Hope you're having a great week, and I'll see you then back on Wednesday. So let me know in the chat if everything's all good. You can hit the like button if you want. That's another way to give me your feedback. But either way you go, have a great rest of your day. Danny, read the book and receive work tomorrow. Yeah, well, there's pages listed in the syllabus for Wednesday, so you just want to read those few pages before the Wednesday meeting, and then on Wednesday, I'll distribute through Titanium your instructions for the first homework exercise. It's not too bad. Okay, guys, so thanks again, everyone, and have a good one, and I will see you then in a couple of days. Bye-bye.
Bye.